In this episode of Project Carhaven, I use specialty tools, lube the shaft before inserting, score some free merch, caveman club some bolts loose, and play a dangerous game with suspension springs. Continuing on where we left off from, I've cleaned up the prop shaft in preparation for a coat of paint. Taped off the end to make sure that doesn't get paint. Added some wire so I can hang it up. Now it's just a matter of giving it a couple of coats. Not really sure why I'm going to so much effort for a part that nobody is ever going to see, but it'll be in the back of my mind all the time if I don't do it. Now while the paint's drying, I'm going to pull out this rear seal. It also helps that the rear of the car is up so it won't spill any oil out when I remove the seal. Well, hopefully not. While I'm down here, I noticed this transmission mount is kaput. It should not be flat down here, but I'm not going to try and change that until I can get the front of the car jacked up. So I just pried the extension housing off here so it's easier to get to the seal. Yeah, that rubber is quite firm. Give that a bit of a wipe in case there's any debris. It'll stop the new seal going in. Put some diff oil on the outside edge of that seal. Get it lined up. Start pressing it in. Just about pushed it home all the way by hand, to be honest. It's in there nice and flush. No hammer required. Perfect. I don't like my chances of being able to push this back on, but you know, try anyway, I guess. Might need a block of wood or something on that. Yep, that's on. The drive shaft's ready to go in, but before I do that, I just wanted to show you the transmission mount. Should look more like that. That's all melted. It feels and looks like chewing gum. That transmission mount is absolutely dead. It's a bit of diff oil on the shaft to lubricate before inserting. Well, refilling the diff with oil means I've got to get it back on the ground. Somehow I've got to pour it out of there into the diff. How am I going to do that? I guess I could run a hose out the back up here to a funnel, hope that the hose stays in the diff, pour the oil in to the volume I think should be in there, hope I don't spew it all over the ground and make a huge mess. Or could use the garden sprayer. Take the nozzle off the end, pour the oil in here, pressurize it, trigger control, easy to reach, solution. The diff and the transmission both take the same oil. The diff takes 1.2 litres, the transmission takes 1.5. Use the measurement indicators on the side of the bottle to get a rough estimate of how much oil I actually need. Transfer, pressurize, fill. So a quick little test. Very slow, but we will get there.
Eventually.
There we go. Now I've already cracked them loose, but much like the diff, we want to make sure you can get the fill plug undone first before undoing the drain. So now that the car's lowered, I'm just finishing draining the transmission oil. Got the drain plug and fill. The drain plug has a magnet, the fill plug does not. Need to make sure they go back in the correct spots. At the front end of the car up, I've got the transmission supported by the jack. I'm going to take the bolts off and then raise the transmission with the jack so I can get that mount out. That has collapsed. The centre bolt's dropped right down. I need to jack the transmission right up to get this to clear. Let's see if that gives us enough room. It looks like it will. Oh, out. Now that the mount is out, we can see that's completely collapsed compared to the new one. That rubber is very soft, very gooey. That thing's trashed. Put a nice new mount back in its place. Bit of persuasion with a mallet maybe. Can we slide it in like this? Oh yes, that's pretty close. Yes, success. That's one started. So there's been a bit of a time jump. I didn't realise that that cross member actually has some rubber bushes on the ends, which thankfully just arrived from Bangkok today. I also received a bunch of other parts, including these guys, which are for the ends of the roof bows, which I don't have for the interior. Now I had one of my subscribers, thank you Colin, comment on one of my other videos on the Celica saying that another channel had just bought a Celica that they were stripping for parts. It's a person that I follow, so I reached out and asked if he happened to have the roof bows. He did. Didn't want to sell them to me though. But what he did do was go ahead and trace out the roof bows onto some paper, so I had all the dimensions, including the diameters, the rear roof clips. Sent me out a t-shirt and stickers. So Cam from the build room, thank you very much for your help and support. It's much appreciated. If you enjoy watching content on Celicas, I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below so you can follow along with his builds. So I didn't actually ask Cam to do any of that for me, he just did it out of the goodness of his heart, and when I tried to pay him he refused. So he's a pretty good guy. If you enjoy builds on Celicas, highly encourage you to go and watch some of his content. I enjoy it and I hope you will too, so thanks again Cam. And the build room, which is Cam, same thing. Now hopefully I can drop the cross member away enough that I can get these bushes in. Let's see how we go. What the? A different size, interesting. I don't know if that different sizing is factory or whether it's a bits of effort. No, they're definitely smaller. Okay. Let's see if that's enough room to work with. Oh. So that's one out. That's quite soft like foam, and the new one is much more firm and more like rubber. A couple of bushes inside and a plate that I need to take out, transfer over. That can sit there for now. I'll change the other side, jack the transmission back up, and bolt this up. Alright, so yeah, these cross member mounts have the consistency of foam and are completely split and shot. I'm really glad I got spares for these and replaced them, because that would have just made the transmission mount useless in a matter of months. Overnight, not so overnight parts from Japan. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but lowered front springs for this car are impossible to find now. Whiteline used to make them, they won't manufacture them anymore, even though they still have an active part number. So I ordered some springs from Japan. Only issue is, had to buy a full set. Fortunately, they're only $200. And the company that sent me these took some pride in their packaging. The bits of damage around the place are my fault, not theirs. This tape, unbelievable. These things locked in solid. This stuff's pretty well packaged. Let's get this out. All right, some front springs. And the rears, I'm probably going to leave the other springs in there, but if the height isn't even from front to rear, I'll probably throw these in as a matching set. But for now, I've got to get the car back on the ground so I can take the wheels off and then start working on the suspension. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to move the car back so I've got some more room. Well, tackling the front end is more than just suspension. Brake discs are going to have to be replaced. Change the wheel bearings. Do the brake lines. Take the shock out of the strut, as well as replace the spring. Replace the strut tops, which are obviously very worn out. Ball joints on both sides are completely shot. Control arm bushes need replacing. The sway bar doesn't even have a bracket on the passenger side. The end link bushes are completely shot. The tension rod bushes also need replacing. The steering arm joints are not in great shape either. This whole assembly will get replaced on both sides. I may need to look at ordering a new pitman arm as well, but I'll find out once I get all this torn down. So I have to start somewhere, so I'll start at the beginning. I'll pull all the brake hardware off first. These calipers aren't held on by bolts like traditional calipers. They use a pin and shim system to wedge it into the bracket. So I need to take these pins out, knock these shims out, and I should be able to get the caliper free. One little pin, try not to lose those. Use a screwdriver for that. There we go. Caliper is out. I'm not worried about hanging the caliper off the hoses because new ones are going in. Still plenty of meat left on that pad, but changing the rotors, going to bin these. That caliper bracket can get painted up. Ugh, a little bit of brake fluid left in that line, but not much. Ugh. All right. Right, next to try and get this rotor off. Ooh, greasy. Oh man, what a mess. Well, that's that off. Just get all these parts off to help clean them up and paint them while we're here. Cheated a little and already loosened these. Oh, strut out. Rest those there so I don't lose track of them for now. Just using some spring compressors so I take the tension off the spring, so when I take the top off it doesn't fly off and shoot into the car or the house or my face. There we go. Man, this is no joke. Oh, these threads need some serious cleaning up. There's some heat there. Ooh. That is really hot. Really hot. Oh, looks like these bushes had been replaced previously. Why these and nothing else, I've got no idea. Alright, let's get these out of the way. Well, makes it difficult when the splash guard's in the way. Guess I'll have to take that off. Well, there's a lot of parts and rust and tools everywhere, but everything's off. So I'm going to stop here for now. In the next episode, I'm going to have all this stuff cleaned up, painted, components replaced, no more split boots. I actually have a sway bar with functioning bushes, new bearings in the hubs, new brake rotors, rebuild the calipers. I'll see you in the next one.